Hey guys, how you doing? By the time you guys see this video, it's probably been about 2 months since I made the original video about the whole DL site issue, and since then, it does seem like the situation is getting worse by the month, or even by the week to be honest. Not only is it now impossible to purchase from DL site through anything other than either having a Japanese form of transaction or using something like Line Pay because PayPal somehow seems to be having some issues according to DL site themselves. So initially at the time I did mention that it does feel like this situation is only gonna get worse as the whole thing feels like a slippery slope where the more they can get away with this, the more they're gonna try to hit things that may seem adjacent or may even seem unrelated to the whole adult like website content thing that they seem to be taking issues with. And bit by bit, it does seem that with some of the newer companies they have hit, people have been wondering why this is all even happening to those companies as well. Around that time, Pixiv also got hit, which Pixiv is a image hosting site where you can basically just upload your images and people can just give it a look and comment on it. And the site, well, it requires you to create an account to prove that you're above the age of 18 in order to view NSFW content. It does have all of that content, and it does seem like over the years, these companies have been putting pressure on the website to slowly restrict the content there more and more. And it has finally reached a point where they've actually created a separate site for people from the US and the UK. So I guess we kind of do know now where most of the groups that are pushing for all these changes are coming from. Since then, Frontier have also been hit, and those are basically just like your Patreon, except for artists in Japan more, I guess, since it's typically used by people here rather than in the rest of the world. Basically, for them to upload their art and basically get people to pay and support them. It really is just like a Patreon, except that you get very different types of people posting on there, I suppose. You also have people who just put up like their regular cosplays or just very wholesome normal art as well. All across the board, just content creation in general for people who want to be supported by their fans, they could use the site, but both of those have also lost access to most of their payment methods because of this whole issue. Then there's also the case of DMM, but for DMM it's a little different due to the fact that they already lost transaction capabilities with Mastercard quite a few years ago, but it would seem that because of that, recently they actually had to set up more stringent region blocks, it seems, because looking at what people have been saying over on Reddit, because this is something that affects people outside of Japan more, it would seem that it has gotten stringent to the point that many countries where using DMM was once possible actually became an issue. And it became such an issue that even Japanese people living overseas were not able to access this content and started complaining. And supposedly, as of around the closer to the end of May, this was all reinstated and fixed. Whether or not this will lead to anything else in terms of restrictions, either on the side of Visa, which is currently usable, or if it will just lead to them trying to implement all of these stringent checks in other ways, we'll have to see. For those of you who do not know what DMM is, it's basically a site that does just about everything when it comes to digital entertainment. Like, they do everything from TV shows and anime that you can watch online to manga to games, all the way down to even English speaking classes that people in Japan can use to learn to speak English or get more used to speaking it to improve their skills. Like, they do basically most of the stuff that you could expect to find online. And one of the things that they are most known for, I would say, is probably browser gacha games instead. So games like Kankole, Granblue. You can even download the Princess Connect like application off of DMM if you wanted to play on the PC as well for Japan. So there really is a lot of this content on there. But the thing is that DMM also has a R18 site where they actually have all of the adult gacha games, which most of these aren't actually available on like the Google App Store, since that is a lot stricter when it comes to stuff like this. But it's quite likely that all of these restrictions and the reason why Mastercard is not usable is also due to this content as well. And the case that happened recently that people have been the most confused by is probably the one for Nico Nico Doga, which, if you do not know what Nico Nico Doga is, you zoomer, alright? Pay respects to the OGs. That site was basically YouTube but for Japanese people back in the day, except the UI was designed by a drunk depressed salaryman because it really looks like it has not changed over the past decade. So like nowadays you do see like Hololive, for example, they all use YouTube because it obviously reaches a bigger audience, but back in the day most of Japan's content creation, especially all of the old school big memes, they all came from there. And even today, some of the big memes that pop up in the anime subspace that come from YouTube, there are some of those that actually initially originate on Nico Nico, and people just basically reposted, or the person themselves reposted it here as well, and that's how they get big. In a sense, when it comes to Japanese videos and content creation, while it's no longer the biggest site, it is still one that, especially in the whole like anime space, it does have some level of popularity because of the fact that it allows people to just continue to post stuff that sometimes just makes it very viral. Hell, they actually have a giant event that they still hold every single year, kind of like a YouTube con thing, except that they actually have like all sorts of interesting stuff happening there, including like doujin events. Zune, the creator of Toho, comes in and sells her spear. Plenty of interesting weird stuff in a very massive event that happens in Chiba, but that's besides the point for now. Fact of the matter is, it's a very big video content creation site which does not have a R18 adult leaning to the site itself, so people were wondering why this was happening. Although, to be honest, I get the feeling that, and this is what, when I talk to my colleagues at work here over in the big J of LAN, J-Land sounds like a porn site thing, but let's just put that aside for now. The speculation that I've seen going around the most, especially among the artists that work in the company I'm in right now, is that it is tied to one of two things. Either it is due to the fact that you kind of have your own, like, I guess your equivalent of YouTube membership over there, and supposedly there are people who do upload quite adult content on that. And the other is due to the sister site for Nico Nico Doga called Nico Nico Sega, which apparently over there, they do have quite a lot of art as well as manga that people upload over there. And it's because these credit card companies take offense to some of the content on there that they're basically also using the fact that this site is tied to Nico Nico Doga to basically hit the bigger company to force them to potentially try to shut down or restrict content on that site as well. So it would seem that bit by bit they have started to target bigger and bigger companies within the space. And the thing, once again, that the reason why I feel like it's important for us to talk about this and why we need something to get done is due to the fact that at this point, a lot of what they're doing is more and more starting to hurt just content creation in general. Because one thing to understand is that within Japan, there's always been a much greater tolerance for adult content than in the West. And I don't mean like among the average people, right? We're all gooners everywhere in the world. I'm just talking about it from a religious or like a political level. There has always been less restriction on all of this. Now, the exact reason why this is the case is something that it will be very difficult for us to go into and discuss because it probably goes back quite a bit into the history of the country itself. And like many people have tied it to stuff like how like the religion here, because of how different it is, there has always been that extra tolerance because the religion has never been this strict about adult content and it's been considered to be more normal and all of that. But look, I'm not a historian, okay? That in my speciality. Point is, it has always been that way, and there are many sites, especially when it comes to the anime side of stuff, where the adult content sites are also being run by the big publications of other content as well. Right, you talk about sites like DL site, for example. It's not just a Guna then book site. It is a site for people to sell all of their indie content that they want to on there. It is also thanks to the adult game industry that many of the popular anime series that exist today are even a thing in the first place, right? Series like Fate Stay Night, for example, that was initially one of those as well. Angel Beats Planet, all of this were created by Key, which was also initially an adult game company. Hell, even to this day in Japan, in a survey that was done in 2022, when asking like the readers of a magazine what series brought them into the whole space of visual novels in general, be it like adult or not otherwise, you do see many of these big series there, like the Fate series, even something like Runs, right, which arguably revolutionized the idea that you could make a good adult visual novel while giving it gameplay that will make it last and stand on its own as a game, even if we removed all of that content. Like, we've gotten many bangers, both in terms of great stories and even interesting games that have arisen from this space that otherwise arguably may have never been a thing. And it's also true that many of the mangaka out there today also did get their start initially doing adult doujin stuff as well. It is a space for them to practice while also getting a certain level of exposure. Pun kinda intended, I guess. And that will allow them to grow their following to the point that they could eventually do like Safe for Work, all ages stuff, and also become a popular artist in a way. because of the increased tolerance towards this kind of content within the country overall, people tend to just allow it to coexist with everything else. Now, needless to say, it's not like we're giving like porn to minors over in this country. It's just more the case that it's treated more like your standard vice here, more like a cigarette or an alcohol, rather than as something that has to be kept forbidden and put on a pedestal for how bad it is. So, as a result, you tend to see it being sold as well as displayed a little more openly, although still not within the eyes and accessibility for children. Right, because frankly, if an adult wants to gun, you should just let them gun. There isn't really a reason to stop them from doing it as long as they're not doing it out in public. But the fact of the matter is that within Japan, there has always been a level of strictness when it comes to dealing with like this kind of content going to children as well, due to the fact that you want to ensure that this thing, which is obviously considerable advice to some extent, would be restricted. And it always has been. And like there has never been a problem with all of this till now. And then like in the past few years, it would seem that for some reason, Mastercard and Visa have just up and decided that they're just gonna try to enforce their own values onto a country with a completely different set of cultures and ideals. And it kind of super sucks in a way. As someone who did work on or in a company that produced adult games in the past as well, like I can see like all of this just like slowly killing off an entire industry, which it's not like the entire industry is just full of weird degen gooners who just going like and just like gooning their days away. Like many of them are just very normal, very rational, and like, you know, people you can talk to and enjoy talking to about normal things as well as all of this stuff. And yeah, it's just a thing that people enjoy that is basically being just like cut out because of the fact that, according to these credit card companies, it would seem that these types of content are just simply something that cannot coexist in the same way that your other vices typically would. Even if we're just talking about like 2D stuff where none of it is actually going to physically harm anyone. So yeah, I don't know. There isn't very much for me to talk about at this point to like go into a deep dive into all of this, simply because I do not have the capabilities to dig super deep into all of this when all of this is happening within a country at the other end of the world from where I'm living right now. And it does seem like the more when I talk to people who live in America or just in the West in general about all of this, that there seem to be many different ideas of how all of this is going on, and many of it either ties back like deep into the corporate structure of the country, the economic structure, I guess, or deep into the political system, both of which it's like dude, I'm just a game dev in Japan. That ain't something I can easily dig into. So look, this doesn't seem like it's gonna get better anytime soon. And unless there is big enough of a stink about the fact that all of this is even going on, it feels like nothing is really gonna happen. Especially because it does seem that there are many people out there who are just like, it's just getting rid of porn, that's a good thing. But the fact of the matter is that it's also hurting many forms of very standard content creation within this country, because of the fact that the way all of this type of content has been intertwined within the country has always kept it in a way that all of this has kind of been able to weirdly coexist while keeping distinctly separate. And now, because of the fact that they're just targeting this type of content, and they're just going through guns blazing, just like cutting like all forms of payment and basically causing like economic suicide for these companies. It's basically like hurting many companies and firms and sites that basically just deal with content creation as a whole, as how it exists within this country and has for quite a long time now. If you guys watch this and you feel like there is a problem at hand here, like try like to let people, you know, bigger YouTubers maybe that you watch that might be interested, not in this video, of course, you don't even have to show it on this video, but that like might be interested in the fact that this is an issue that's going on and that might be able to give it more of a voice. Do let them know about it. If they don't go bully them into talking about it. If they don't want to, it's fine, right? Like it's their choice. It's just that like, yeah, this all is gonna eventually like cause a pretty, I mean, sizable may be the wrong word, but a pretty like fair-sized. But my dog's just rumbling for some reason. I don't know if it's enough quick. Of the indie content creation scene, especially when it comes to even like art or just music, voice dramas, all of that to potentially be hurt by all of this like completely irresponsible ways that these credit card companies are going about trying to achieve whatever the goals that they have are. You know, like as someone who talks about like Dojin events quite a lot on this channel, who tries to also show that like it's not all just NSFW stuff, and that like when it comes to Japan, there's actually much more of a balance between the SFW and NSFW stuff than what is typically shown online. You know, it kind of hurts to see like this entire space of content creation basically being hurt because these credit card companies seem to be doing things based off their understanding of how the world works, which is basically not how things work in this parts of the world. So yeah, just so you guys know, like at this point there have been more than 10 different sites that have been hit by all of this, and the number looks like it's probably going to keep increasing. So hey guys, sorry to interrupt at the end of the video all of a sudden like this, but it just came to my attention today, the day the video was literally supposed to go up. Thank you to ZeroX for pointing this out as well, that the mangaka turned politician Akamatsu Ken actually did put out a tweet on June the 1st stating that his own manga publication or like manga website called Manga Magazine has also been receiving said requests from these credit card companies, and that they too have been threatened with like even harsher penalties by these companies if they didn't take down certain types of works. For those of you who didn't know, Manga Library is basically a ebook website where they largely store a huge number of out of print mangas, especially, so stuff that you can't buy on shelves anymore, and it's in a way for many of these older pieces of work to be preserved digitally for people to be able to view whenever, wherever. And according to him, the credit card companies have been coming to all of these firms with harsher and harsher penalties for not complying over the years, and he has actually like talked to the government about this, and it does seem like this might actually like tread onto certain levels of the Japanese law as well, and he is looking into investigating this along with the relevant bodies where possible. So maybe we might see something get done here in Japan, but even then, it does feel like if these credit card companies do not face some level of pushback in their home countries as well, it does feel like bit by bit they will continue to find ways to push their own agendas overseas. So yeah, I still stand by the fact that as far as possible, if you guys can, do try to help spread the word of all of this, so that at least they know that they're not just like facing off against like one country whose people are just built different or something, according to them at least. But that said, I'll be heading off for today. That's all I really have for now. I'm gonna go back to dealing with the 2K sub video, since that's quite late, or like yeah, it has been quite delayed at this point, since I was thinking of what to do for it, and also to work on the video on the game industry in Japan. So I'll be going back to working on those. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe and leave a like if you find this video, I don't know if this video interesting is the right thing to say, since the videos on this channel tend to be typically longer and about somewhat different things. But hey, if you found this video interesting, do feel free to check out the channel, maybe watch a video about like Dojin events, or about the game industry, or about Kusoges if you're interested. And subscribe if those type of content interests you as well. And leave a like on this if you want to like help this video reach more people, I guess. But until next time, take care, and my head is gone again. Bye-bye.